Not much tonight. Muggy. Could see some late fog lows, 70 to 72. More of the same Tuesday, 90 to 92, with a few more scattered afternoon showers and storms returning for the midweek. Looking to buy or sell a home? Real Living Southern Realty provides real answers and customized marketing solutions. Serving the entire tri-state area, and check rosouthernrealty.com for more. And I'm Source East Walsh, meteorologist at your 4.
Radio 92.7.
Sam Jordan News Talk 92.7 Action Sports Now. Terrell Owens is now a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. However, he wasn't inducted in Canton, Ohio. He was inducted in Chattanooga, Tennessee on Saturday. Owens, who played for the San Francisco 49ers, Dallas Cowboys, and Philadelphia Eagles, amongst other teams, held his ceremony at UTC on Saturday and really wanted to wish and thank everyone in the Chattanooga area for their valued support through the years. It was Chase Elliott getting his first victory in 99 starts and the 250th victory for Hendrick Motorsports that snapped a 37-race losing streak in taking that Sun Energy number 9 Chevrolet to victory lane, edging out Martin Truex Jr., who ran out of gas 1/2 lap from the finish line. Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez, and Eric Jones finished out the top 5. Tune in weeknights for the Locker Room Show in the Clutch. Sam Jordan, News Talk 92.7 Action Sports Now.
Nuga Radio.
Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7.
Nuga Radio.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, City of Chattanooga. It's Marie Mott with the Marie Mott Show. And as always, I'm taking it from the streets to City Hall, from City Hall to the mayor's office. Can't leave out the police department or our Hamilton County educational system. From the valley low to the mountaintop, giving you guys a bird's eye view to what's going on in the city of Chattanooga. Good morning. It is a beautiful day, and the weather called for rain, but we got some sunshine. So I hope everyone is at work, or either maybe you're just now getting up. Whatever it is, you're in a good mood. You're having a great day. But today we're going to have a discussion. School is getting ready to start for charter schools. It's already started. We're going to be talking today about the trauma to prison pipeline. And y'all know me, when I talk about something, I like reframing it so we can think about it differently. We can think about it objectively. It is often called the school to prison pipeline, but often these children who are being funneled into prisons go through trauma. And if we don't be objective, or we be firm in talking about these children going through personal traumas, then often how we look at them is from a criminal perspective. We often assume that they are, and I hear people throw terms around so loosely, so frequently: thugs, gangsters. These are children. And I want to talk about the youth. I want to talk about the children. And if you want to call in and chop it up with me, it is 800-8949. 800-8949 is always the call-in number. I'm streaming live on my personal Facebook, on Nuga 92.7's Facebook, as well as YouTube. If you can't call in, always feel free to drop in a comment, and if I see it, I will respond or try to answer any questions or comments that you have. And I already see Christopher Dahl has dropped something on the Nuga Radio Facebook page. But the trauma to prison pipeline. So let's start with some statistics, because one of the things that I like to do is kind of try to frame things from a number standpoint, but also I'm a heart person. So I give you the heart issue, the heartfelt behind it as well. So one of the reasons why we have a funneling of children into the prison industrial complex is because of zero tolerance. And whether we want to admit it or not, the data states what it says, that these zero tolerance policies are generally used to target African American, brown, and poor white students. Let's look at the numbers, you guys. So this is 2018 statistics that you can find on ACLU.org. And that is that in public school enrollment is at 51% for white children, 16% for African American children. But when you look at the multiple suspension data, 31% of white children will have multiple suspensions. 42% of African American children will be suspended multiple times during school. 31% of all school-related arrests are Black students. Black students are 3 times more likely to be expelled, meaning kicked out of school, than their white counterparts. Now, I don't know how many of my listeners, you guys, I know, I hope, I pray that I got some teachers who listen. I have some doctors, some lawyers, some business owners, some call center workers, some factory workers. I don't care who you are. I hope every once in a while you pick up a book or look at an article and you read it. If we go back to 2015, right before Bernie Sanders was running for president. And again, if you want to call and talk to me, 800-8949. Bernie Sanders, in a 2015 article that was published, stated that 1 in 3 Black male children have a chance of going to prison. 1 in 3. All right. So that's the data. 3 times more likely to be expelled. 42% of multiple suspensions, folks. And most of this is based on zero tolerance. Now, I want to dig in both the first half and the second half of the segment, not only on some of the things that I believe or I see that cause this pipeline that we have, even here in the city of Chattanooga. But I want to even be objective in offering solutions, right? I don't just talk about problems. I try my best not to. I want to also talk about solutions. And let me state this. I've only been on the radio for like 2 weeks, despite maybe what people think. I've only been on the radio 2 weeks, and I'm only 30 years old. I'm not Sway. I don't have all the answers, okay? I know some people got that. I don't have all the answers. But what I will not do is continue to take formulas that do not work. You know, my daddy tells me all the time, baby, stupidity is, insanity is doing the same things over and over and expecting the results to be different. If you want a different outcome, change what you're doing. So let's talk about how we kind of got into this. The first thing is let's look at our school system to begin with, because I think part of getting towards solutions and really being objective and honest about these kind of topics is looking at how we got into these situations to begin with. I continue to put that platter of vegetables that you probably don't want to eat, because what I give you is Brussels sprouts. It's not candy. I'm not giving you nothing sweet. I'm giving you Brussels sprouts. It may not look too good, but it's good for you, right? The parochial school system that we have was designed with the original intent to create factory workers. Spar me on that if you want to, 800-8949. But that's the truth. We had a lot of children who had nothing to do. 150 years ago, there was no school system, right? And because America, as well as other places in the world, were changing, we began to have industrialization, a booming industries in the United States. We needed people to go into factories and be able to work. So one of the things that I want you to think about, if maybe depending on how old you are, or even maybe how young you are, think about how school is set up. You wear uniforms or dress code, right? You have to arrive. You wake up super early so you catch the bus, or your parents can drop you off to go to school. So you got to arrive by a certain time. Does that not sound like work to you? You got to arrive at a certain time, dress, badge, books, tools, supplies, right? Bells. You got bells Rings, does that not sound like what a workforce used to be? A bell rings, that's when a shift starts. Bell rings, that's when you're in class. So the originally how our school system was set up was to produce factory workers. Well, hello, it's 2018, and we don't have a lot of factories anymore, unless you're counting Amazon. We don't have a lot of factory jobs anymore. We don't have that same industrial complex that we had in America 100 years ago. That the systems that allowed my great grandfather to work 50 plus years for one corporation, right, and retire and have a pension. We don't have that sort of setup in America anymore. Our school system is extremely outdated, very, very outdated. And so the whole purpose of school is to get children conditioned to work in a factory. It really was not to produce free thinkers. It really wasn't to produce the next generation of leaders. It was to produce the next generation of workers. Pause. And I want you to think about that. Chew on that for just a second. The school system was not designed to create the next generation of leaders or free thinkers. The school system was designed to create the next generation of workers. Okay? So kids have to sit still in class, often classes that are very boring, but have to sit still in classes for hours on end. Does that not sound like work? So you had to be used to sitting in a station, identifying with bells, learning what a dress code is, and we have not updated that school system to fit into the world that we have now. Not really. Okay. Another reason that we have a pipeline, and I talked about this on Friday, is segregation. We think segregation ended on paper. Segregation, just like slavery, it was ended on paper with the exception of if you are in prison. Segregation ended on paper. You want to know why in the city of Chattanooga, we could just talk about home. In the city of Chattanooga, you want to know why all of the opportunity schools are in one particular area? It's because we were segregated. We as African American people, or poor people in general, were only allowed to live, buy, and exist in one space within the city. And so because of that, we couldn't go to the schools that we wanted to. And part of that comes from zoning. You got to ask yourself, why do we have zoning laws? Why do you have zones for schools? Well, part of that is to prevent your children from going to the schools of their choice or going to the schools that are really going to benefit them. And part of that also is because we want to concentrate all of the poor children in schools with one another. That way, when they're failing, we can say they don't deserve any dollars. Now, y'all know I'm going to talk about it for real. If they're all failing, they don't deserve any more state funds. They deserve to be taken over by the state. Didn't that almost happen? That almost happened for us here at home. Here in the fastest growing mid-sized city in the country, we almost had, I think it was 5 schools that were taken over by the state. And I'm not going to knock what Dr. Johnson and some of the others are doing or what they're trying to do, but let's be honest. If we're not going to change the overall business of how we do school, I don't expect the overall results of school to change. I don't expect the pipeline to be dismantled. I don't expect that. So segregation, it is fact that if you want your children to perform, they need to be in schools with children that they may not live next to, and children who are often more economically sound. You want poor children to do better? You want African American children to do better? They need to have a mixture of students in their school. They need to be able to sit next to a student who may be able to educate them on a sonnet, right? And them educate The other student on Meek Mill, why Meek Mill is important to them. I'm just saying. The educational pathway can also start with children. But when you have children who are constrained and confined to one school, and the majority of them are coming out of homes that have no fathers, so they're often from homes that are not only economically poor or inequitable, but often they're coming from backgrounds where they do not have male fathers or representation in their homes as well. Let's also talk about that. I believe it's over 90% of the teachers in our American school system are Caucasian women. We do not have diversity in teachers, principals. Shucks, let's look at our school board. We don't have really diversity in our school board. Is it no wonder why we have pipelines? Come on, folks. I'm just asking questions. And of course, if you want to call in and chat with me, 800-8949. It's so important that we talk about education. Has got to be one of the main things we continue to push as far as change. It's because this is your children's life on the line. Think about that. Every day your children go to school, it's going to determine whether or not they're going to end up in handcuffs or whether they're going to cross the stage with a college degree, right? Whether they're going to be more economically sound or they're going to be the next generation of poor in your family. We got to think about this. It's do or die. And so many things in our life and in our society, it's do or die. So the pipeline exists also because of segregation. But I hit on it a little bit. The pipeline also exists because, honestly, America targeted a whole generation of African-American men in the late 80s and the 90s. As much as people love Bill Clinton locked up more people than any other of his Republican predecessors. I can only pause for a second. We had a whole generation of African-American men get locked up, and the majority of them for nonviolent crimes, might I add, for drugs that they didn't bring into the country because they were just looking for a way to feed their family. I'm not excusing their behavior or their choices, but let's be honest. Let's be honest of how we got here. And so when you have the next generation of children who are growing up without fathers, and now the system is using the trauma that these children go through, the fact that they're poor, the fact that they don't have tools, some of them don't have adequate clothes, some of them are hungry. Shucks, since 2008, adolescent homelessness in the city of Chattanooga has tripled. Some of them are homeless. Folks, stop and think about that. Some of the children who are going to school have no place to live. They don't know where they're going to sleep. How can they graduate? How can they be successful? Folks, the pipeline exists because of inequity and targeting. And we have to begin to look objectively, not only at the problems that we have, but what are the solutions? What are the solutions to those problems? To segregation, the removal of a stable Black home, the targeting of the Black family, the targeting of poor people in general. And let's look at, before we close out on the first half, why is it so important for us to funnel children into prison, core civic, if we're going to talk about home? Why is it important to funnel children into core civic? Well, the prison industrial complex, we're talking about $1 billion industry. And we know, especially in the state of Tennessee, that most of the prisons are privatized, meaning that they are a business. So why would we need to ensure that our children don't become free thinkers, don't become properly educated? Why do we need to ensure that we don't have the proper tools? Oh, somebody called in. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Talk to me.
Yeah, am I on?
Good morning.
Good morning. I would like to weigh in on what you're talking about.
Please do.
Okay, two things. First of all, it's my opinion, and it's just my opinion, that the black community needs a good dose of the old covenant from the Bible, because that would set a lot of the foundational problems straight.
Now, when you say the old covenant, what do you mean?
Well, Christianity does a disservice to our community by saying that the Old Testament or the old law is done away with. But the truth of the matter is that law that's written in the book of Deuteronomy is very important on how we deal with one another, how families are to be instituted and to stay foundationally strong. Also, in what happens when a person or a family goes astray. And slavery, believe it or not, is a very important part of that covenant. That is to say that when we do away with the prison systems and we start looking at when a person commits a crime, they are endowed to the person that they committed the crime to. In other words, if you steal from a person, you're to make restitution rather than to be thrown in jail for X number of years.
Now that I agree with.
Yeah. And those ideas come from Almighty God. And so one of the solutions that I think would be applicable to what you're talking about is to begin with the black churches, and white churches for that matter, all churches, to go back and look at the old covenant not as a way of salvation, but as a way of learning how to live with one another.
Thank you so much for that, caller. We're going to get into solutions, and I'm going to pick up back with what you stated on the second half. Stay tuned for the second half of the segment where we're talking about the trauma to prison pipeline for our children. Stay tuned.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A stolen tractor trailer rams a patrol car and officers open fire. This according to the Ringgold PD. Police Chief Dan Milbury telling the press the vehicle was involved in a traffic stop because it was reported stolen. Multiple officers were on the scene when the driver reportedly tried to run them down. No one was hurt and the GBI is handling the investigation. A fiery wreck claiming the life of one Saudi Daisy motorist on Highway 27. Reports say the car careened off the road at 2 a.m. under the Highway 111 underpass. The driver was pronounced dead at the scene. The car engulfed in flames. Cops say the driver was speeding. Rescuers rushed to save a 15-year-old girl who plunged 50 feet into frigid waters at Rainbow Falls. Multiple agencies worked to recover her. Reports say she was awake and alert when she was found. Val St. John for Nooga Radio. News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
I live, work, and play in Chattanooga, the scenic city. But when it comes to my next car, truck, or SUV, I'm Alabama bound. Fort Payne, Alabama, and Landers McClarty Ford. Big city selection of new and pre-owned vehicles with the small town price and friendly service. Now, I'm not knocking my hometown, but when it comes to my next ride, I only go to Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. Their selection is huge. Then if I can't find what I want, they'll find it for me with the same low price, same great service, and only a short drive away. And I can go online to look around before I leave the house. Got that next dream ride in your head yet? Yeah, you do. Get a head start at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Don't just dream it, find it at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com. That's right, Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne, Alabama.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Hello? Who am I speaking with? Eric. You're our winner. Really?
You'll receive tickets for all 3 races between the Camping World Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Monster Energy Cup races.
Holy cow.
In addition, you'll receive a 2-night stay at the Microtel Hotel and restaurant accommodations at 2 area restaurants.
Nuga Radio.
Roar into Talladega.
Nuga Radio.
92.7.
Your NASCAR racing station. Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio. 92.7.
I got my business up and running and it's already expanding. I got lucky. Lucky because I found Signal Voice and Data. Signal Voice and Data can incorporate all of my business information sharing and communications seamlessly, keep my costs down, and let me work more productively with endless connectivity no matter where I might be. That's called working smart, not hard. Go to signalvoicetn.com and bring the future of communication to your business today. signalvoicetn.com.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Hey, Karen, you need me for that 1 o'clock?
Yes, Cheese, please. Karen, did you get the quarterlies done? Yep, they're filed in the Cabernet cabinet.
Karen, can you describe the initiatives to the new hire? Thanks.
Oh, sure. Full-bodied, some floral notes, maybe a hint of dark chocolate.
Am I in the right department?
Got wine on the mind? Come unwind at Virgola. Italian wine, oysters, caviar, cheeses, and more. Perfect after work or a romantic date night. Virgola Italian Wine Bar, 608 Georgia Avenue.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need AMCO Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. AMCO Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins. Are you tired of making 1% on your investments with the banks? Even 2 or 3% at best? Now, Rick wants you to buy on U.S. Gold American coins.
Rick Davis Golden Diamonds. Brainerd Road. Chattanooga weather.
We expect hot and humid weather out there for your afternoon with some sunshine. Can't rule out a stray shower or two, but not much. Tonight, muggy. Could see some late fog lows, 70 to 72. More of the same Tuesday, 90 to 92 with a few more scattered afternoon showers and storms returning for the midweek. Looking to buy or sell a home? Real Living Southern Realty provides real answers and customized marketing solutions. Serving the entire tri-state area, and check rlsouthernrealty.com for more. And I'm Soren Dean, Chief Meteorologist at your 4.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
It's your girl, Marie Mott, back for the second half of the segment for the Marie Mott Show. And today we're talking about the trauma to school pipeline. It's not just the school to trauma to prison pipeline, excuse me. It's not just the school to prison pipeline, because I want to make it very, very clear and very, very plain that the children who are often being funneled into our prison system have endured trauma. Now, before I pick up on the last caller's comments from the first half of the segment, I also want to talk about another way. A lot of the children who go to these poverty-stricken, inequitable schools also deal with gang violence and gun violence in their neighborhoods as well. Let me repeat that. A lot of the children who go to our poverty-stricken and in our schools that are dealing with inequity, they are often the survivors. I've talked to a lot of them. I've gone to youth centers. I've seen even comrades of mine like Brandon Woodruff, Stephen Bedford, other people who've asked these young people, ask a simple question. How many of you guys know somebody that's either been shot or been murdered? and the majority, if not almost all of them, raised their hand. They are also survivors of gun violence and gang infestation in our communities as well. These kids don't show up to school just wanting to act bad. That is a misconception. These children are dealing with the fact that in the city that I live in, that has 2 Chattanoogas, mama's got to work 2 jobs in order to make it. Or the possibility I'm probably being raised by my grandparents. Let's talk about it honestly. Mama got to work hard, especially if daddy ain't there. She got to work hard. Or grandma's taking care of me. Or maybe nobody's taking care of me and I'm responsible solely for myself. These children are going through a lot more than some of us ever could have imagined. I don't know what it's like to grow up without a father. I've always had the both of the people who raised me. I've always had the both of my parents. That's not a reality for the people I went to school with. That's not a reality for people even in my family. I have aunts. I have more aunts who have raised their children by themselves than I have aunts that have had the men that they married and gave them children be there in their children's lives. This is coming from a middle class family. I'm just talking about it real. A lot of our children have endured so much trauma. And so often what I've learned, and I can appreciate my father because he previously, before moving towards probation, he worked for over a decade at juvenile court. And one of the things he continued to talk to me about in my 20s was learning to forgive people for their first reaction or for their attitudes, because it's always things going on beneath the surface. And a lot of the outbursts of our children, besides a lot of them being extremely intelligent, and besides seeing no representation in the classroom, besides them going through personal struggles at home, some of them are so intelligent that they're bored by our curricula. The other thing is they're just so stressed. They're stressed. A lot of them are worried about adult issues and problems and then having to go to school. And so their misbehavior, them cutting up in class, them ditching class, those are just outbursts from inward struggles. And the solution to that problem is not to put more police officers in our schools. Let me make that plain. We need to be careful. And I want to say this, having a good portion of my family come from the military and being involved in law enforcement, I can say this even still. We need to be careful at how comfortable we're allowing our children to get with interacting with police. We need to be careful. We need to be careful at how comfortable we're allowing our children to become with people who will handcuff them. Now let's talk about, let me talk about the last comments. I agree with the caller who called in earlier. And if you want to call in and chop it up with me, 800-8949 is the call-in number for the show. Please call and talk to me. But part of the problem that we have with the prison complex is it is a business. And so we got to ask ourselves, why are people being locked up at the rate in the freest country in the world? We have more prisoners than any other country in the world. And that even goes for juveniles. Why are we locking up all these people? It's a business. And is that of God? Is that what God intended? For us to turn people's mistakes into a profitable business? Sit and think about that for a moment. Did God intend for us to turn people's mistakes into a profitable business in the most church city in America? We should go back to Deuteronomy, where if a person makes a mistake, they owe the family or they owe that person who they harmed Now, there are some people who, and when we talk about biblical law, as far as the prison system, there wasn't a prison system, but some form of justice that we had from a biblical perspective. It was either you owed the person in which you harmed or the family in which you harmed, or you had to die. Simple. Plain. There was no box that you caged people in. There wasn't making them work for 10 cents or 5 cents a day. Either you paid the family back or your life was done. We weren't going to let you sit and rot in prison. And maybe we wouldn't see such great mistakes. And part of the process, and I've talked to David Toulis off air about this, is that this begins the process of redemption for the person. And it really shows a person who they are and connects them to the family or the people in which they harmed. We got to start thinking, besides just going back to how God intended for us to love and live with one another, we got to start we have to start thinking outside of the box about how we're going to change this country and the conditions in which we're in. And the redemption process is not caging a person like they're a wild animal. The redemption process is giving them one of two choices. They pay the person back, or they choose death because they will never be honest. Maybe that's harsh, too harsh for some, but I'm just saying, is what we're doing working? Because the reality is, especially when we look at juvenile data, and I've talked about this before, that when a young man, young woman, doesn't matter, whatever color, goes to juvenile, they become 3 to 5 times more likely to be a serial criminal. We make criminals, folks. Our system makes criminals. We make the criminals. Nobody's born a criminal. Now, there are some people, I believe, who are just evil. They are evil. But we really make the criminals, because a lot of these kids wouldn't know half of the things that they know about criminality because they went to jail. They went to jail. Solutions. Let's talk about solutions, folks. Solution number 1, we need to start getting these SRO officers out of our schools. Y'all know I've already talked about how we need to start lessening police presence in our society anyways. And really, we need to start lessening the amount of prisoners that we have. We need to do away with SRO officers. We don't need them. Why can't children do yoga, meditation? Why can't they do breathing exercises? Why can't they go into a space where they can clear their mind? We need more counselors. Here in the city of Chattanooga, we have a shortage in some schools of counselors, of adequate counselors, people who should be on staff only for children to be able to talk to them. We need more counselors. I'm seriously asking, why can't children do yoga? I did karate in elementary school. Why can't we do things like that? Yoga. Doing away with zero tolerance. Who came up with that? Children are children. Children do stupid stuff. I cannot tell you, despite the fact that I had 2 parents, my parents worked 40 plus hours a week to give me and my siblings the best life that we possibly could have. And I still can't tell you the amount of stupid things that I did. Children do stupid stuff. And that doesn't matter who they are, what color they are. It don't matter how poor or how rich they are. They do stupid stuff because they're children. They're trying to find their way. They're impressionable. Even like us adults, we're quite impressionable as well. They're children. Where do we get to in a society that we won't tolerate mistakes? That mistakes and imperfection is something despicable.
instead of an opportunity for us to teach and for us to impart. Think about that. So instead of going from zero tolerance, we just go to accountability. We explain why children shouldn't do. Instead of suspending them, how about doing something like my parents would do, making me read a book? Okay, so instead, you're not going to get suspended, but you got a book that you got to read, and I'm going to need you to write a paper on it. Or I'm going to ask you some questions about chapter 1, chapter 2. And I'm going to be following up with you about this book. You better read the book. Instead of putting them in school suspension, how about giving them a project? A project. Maybe they have to build a circuit. Maybe they have to, and you give them a lesson. I'm just saying, we got to start thinking outside the box, folks. For the young men, whether you're Hispanic men, whether you're white men, whether you're black men, and not even just, let me not even say young. For the men out there, for the men folk, but especially our men of color. How about you guys forming a dad alliance, a father's alliance? And y'all agree that y'all gonna show up at the schools once a month. You're gonna clap all the children in. You're gonna show up once a month, and you may not have a lot of money, but you guys agree that maybe you guys are gonna go into the classrooms and you're gonna split into teams, and you're gonna go into the classrooms and you're gonna talk to the kids. You're gonna do an activity with them. What about starting a dad's alliance? A father's alliance? Huh? What about some of you guys out there who are lawyers, doctors, psychologists, business owners, barbers? Huh? Hitting up people like Fathers to the Fatherless, Logan Taylor and Dante Hampton of YB Normal, and seeing how y'all can start a father or a men's movement here in the city of Chattanooga of going into the schools on a regular basis, even if it's just something that we're just going to do this 4 times a year to start, until we start building up a base of more and more fathers, more and more men, retired, middle-aged, young, who are interested and coming in. And we're going to start doing activities with the kids. We're going to start supporting them at their games. Right? We're going to start clapping them in, not only because a charter school opened, but we're going to start clapping them in maybe once a month. And they can start knowing our names and building a relationship with us. What about some of you guys out there volunteering to be a substitute teacher? Some of y'all are, somebody listening may need a job. Now, let me qualify this. I don't need you in the schools if you're a pedophile or a rapist, or if you like putting your hands on children. I need you to be a nice, decent, respectable human being. And you got to like kids. Don't go in there if you don't like kids. I can't tell you the amount of substitute teachers that we had that acted like they didn't like children. But sign up to reach out to the Hamilton County Board of Education to see the process of becoming a substitute teacher. Not only can you do that as part-time work, but you can start building a relationship with these kids from within the classroom. Now, let me say it's not going to be easy. A part of that is because these children have been so traumatized, they don't know who to trust. But if we're waiting on the system to fix itself, just like everything else in this country, we will be waiting. All the while, our children are being funneled into being criminals, used to being policed. If we want to remove the SRO officers out of the schools, let's make it to where it's no longer a need for them. Huh? That it's so rare that they get called to the school. We don't have any room for them. We can't pay them. We don't need them. Just some suggestions, things that I think about. The first thing is our children have to see themselves. They got to see themselves in the curriculum. You know, there are a lot of intelligent, young, middle-aged, and older men of color. Go in and tell the children about Juneteenth. Huh? If you're Puerto Rican, tell them about how the Puerto Rico got from up under Spanish rule. Teach them more than Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X. What about Nat Turner? Queen Ya Asantewaa? Huh? A lot of them probably don't hear about W.E.B. Du Bois, the Black Panther Party, Gil Scott-Heron, just to name a few. Ella Baker, Audre Lorde, James Baldwin, just to name a few. If we're waiting on the system to change, we'll be waiting. The power is in our own hands, and we have to self-determine not only how we want our schools to turn around, but how we're going to turn them around. How we're going to step up as a community and do the work. We got to do the work. What do you think? If you still got a couple of more minutes, if you want to call and chop it up with me and give some suggestions to the listener, I report, you decide. Everything that I do is based on education, conversation, and participation. I want to see things change in this society. I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect. I am not a deity. I am a human being that fails, have made horrible mistakes, but God's mercy extended from heaven, as well as the mercy of people in my family and people around me who have forgiven me despite my faults, have often caused me to be able to have the space to change my life. And part of that is having grace. And a lot of us, we need to work on that so much more. Our forgiveness meter and our grace meter. We all make mistakes. Nobody is perfect, and especially our children. There are a lot of children who are going through so many different obstacles on a personal level. And not only do we need to be aware about that, have some grace. As my father would say and my mother would say, give somebody a grace card today. A child cut up in class, give them a grace card. Ask them what's going on. A lot of these children will change just if they see people who care. Because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And we do need to increase our love and our understanding, and more than just tolerance, but that we accept one another, flaws and all. And I promise this society will legitimately begin to change. It's the trauma to prison pipeline. And if we want to dismantle that, we got the tools, and we got to step up and do the work. I thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Marie Mott Show. I hope I offered some suggestions, some things that you guys can implement. I hope you guys will share the video. I hope you guys will continue to tune in, because tomorrow we're going to talk about how caste systems have been created in American society. Is America a caste system? I hope you guys tune in tomorrow. It's going to be one hell of a show. I love you guys. And as always, if no one has taken the time today to tell you that they love you, I love you. And guess what? There's nothing you can do about that. Have a good day.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A stolen tractor trailer rams a patrol car and officers open fire. This according to